Sairam students, a warm welcome to all of you. Today we are going to continue with our lesson Jane Eyre at Lowood Institution. Yesterday I covered a small part of the lesson and today we'll continue from where we stopped. But before that students, let me just give you a short recap of what we did in our last class. Basically, this lesson revolves around a girl, Jane, who is an orphan. Before her uncle, Mr. Reed, passed away, he took a promise from his wife that she will take care of Jane for rest of her life. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Jane is not treated properly by her aunt, Mrs. Reed, and her cousins. She is never a part of any celebration. After her uncle's death, her life is miserable with her aunt. Then she decides to send Jane to Lowood Institution. There, Mr. Brocklehurst is briefed about Jane. Mrs. Reed tells Mr. Brocklehurst that Jane has a habit of speaking lies. And she wants Mr. Brocklehurst to bring up Jane in a very modest way. Now Mr. Brocklehurst informs the other people around at the institution to be very careful of this girl because she has a habit of cheating. And he also tells the teachers that they should keep an eye on Jane. All this while Jane was happy. She was doing very well. Miss Temple was very happy with her performance, and everything around was very good. She had made many new friends. But after this, things had changed. She was very upset. Somehow she was trying to bring her life back to, normalcy. But it was just for a very small period of time. She wanted to die after what Mr. Brocklehurst had announced to the other people. Now she is very sad and she's sitting in one room wherein she can see Helen Burns, her friend, who comes with a cup of coffee and bread. But she doesn't want to eat. Jane feels that she'll get choked up after she has anything. She's very upset. She speaks to Helen, saying that she wants to die. She feels that everyone around hates her now. To which Helen says, everyone, it's only 80 people around and the world is of millions and millions of people. She says those millions, they are not important, but these 80 people with whom I am staying, they are important and they feel wrong about her. And this is where I stopped. If you remember students, this was the last slide that I explained, wherein Helen tells that everybody around is scared of Mr. Brocklehurst. And if they, the feeling that they have in their heart is of friendship. And then she says that if Jane perseveres to do well, then she can win everyone's heart. And that is where I stop, students. A gentle reminder to all of you to quickly go and get your book and pen. And let's get started. Well, Helen, said I, putting my hand into hers. She chafed my fingers gently to warm them and went on. If the entire world hated you and believed you to be wicked, while your own conscience approved you and absolved you from guilt, you would not be without friends. So what did she do? She put her hands in Helen's hand, and Helen, she chafed my fingers. She was slowly rubbing Jane's finger to gently warm them. And then she said that if the entire world hated you and believed you to be wicked, but if your own conscience approved you and absolved you is forgive you of the guilt, okay, you will never be without friends. Okay, if your conscience is saying that no, you are not wrong, okay, and if it is forgiving you from the guilt, one can never ever be without friends. Let the world think whatever they have to think. That is what Helen told Jane. No, I know. I should think well of myself. But that is not enough. If others do not love me, I would rather die than live. So she says, I know I should think of well of myself, but that's not enough. If the world around me does not love me, then it's better that I die than I live. I cannot bear to be solitary and hated. I cannot be all alone. I cannot stay lonely, and I cannot live with this feeling of being, of someone hating me. To gain some real affection from you or Miss Temple or any other whom I truly love, I would willingly submit to have the bone of my arm broken, or to let a bull toss me, or. Then she says, to get some affection from you is Helen, or from Miss Temple, or from anybody around in the institution whom Jane loved. She can go to any extent to get their love. What does she say? I would willingly submit to have the bone of my arm broken, or I can allow a bull to toss me. Okay, she says she can go to any extent to get love from people whom she really loves. Hush, Jane. You think too much. I know you are innocent of this charge, which Mr. Brocklehurst has weakly and pompously repeated at second hand from Mrs. Reed. For I read sincerity in your eyes. And when Jane was telling that she can go to any extent, what all things she can do, that time Helen asked her to keep quiet. She said that, you think too much. And then she says that I know you are innocent. I know you are not wicked. I know you don't have this habit of, cheating on, of deceiving others. And then she says, Mr. Brocklehurst has weakly and pompously repeated at second hand from Mrs. Reed. So this information, he has just repeated that from whatever he has heard from Mrs. Reed. And what do I see in your eyes? All I can see is sincerity. The meaning of the word pompously is self-importantly. I was silent. Helen had calmed me. I rested my head on Helen's shoulder and we reposed in silence. We had not sat long thus when a person came in. So she says that now she is silent. She was crying. Helen had calmed her and she rested her head on Helen's shoulder and we reposed in silence. They were just sitting quietly. Okay. And it was not very long, but another person came inside the room. I came on purpose to find you, Jane A., said Miss Temple. So she says that, there's a reason why I have come here. I want you in my room. And as Helen Burns is with you, she may too. So she asked Jane to come to her room, and then she says that now that Helen Burns is with you in this room, let Helen also join you and both of you see me in my room. We followed the superintendent's guidance and crossed some intricate passages before we reached her apartment. It contained a good fire and looked cheerful. Miss Temple told Helen Burns to be seated in a low armchair on one side of the hearth and herself taking another. She called me to her side. Now they followed the superintendent's guidance and they crossed some intricate passages. What is intricate is complicated passages. They took many lefts and rights before they reached Miss Temple's apartment, and that apartment contained a good fire and it looked good. Miss Temple, she asked Helen Burns to be seated in a low armchair on one side of the hearth. Hearth is the floor at the base of a fireplace. So one side she asked Helen Burns to sit, and on the other side she sat down, and then she called Jane to her side. Is it all over? She asked, looking down at my face. Have you cried your grief away? So she said, okay, are you done with your crying? Okay, it's your sad, you were very upset, you look very upset. Okay, so have you cried enough? Is your grief away? I'm afraid I never shall do that. So she says, no, how can I ever forget? How can I ever finish crying on this topic? Okay, this is so bad. I can ever, I'm afraid I shall never do that. That can never finish. It's going to be with me. And then she asks, why? Who is this person asking? It is Miss Temple asking Jane, why can't you finish it off? To which Jane replies, because I have been wrongly accused, and you, ma'am, everybody else will now think me wicked. So she feels bad now. The whole, the institution around, the people around in the institution, all of them will feel that they'll think that Jane is wicked. So definitely it's something very bad and she cannot come out of it. We shall think you what you prove yourself to be, my child. Continue to act as a good girl and you will satisfy us. So she says, we shall think of, what you are, that your behavior will say. Let's read this line again. We shall think you what you prove yourself to be, my child. So whatever you do, okay, based on that, we'll understand what kind of girl you are, which means what others speak about you is not important. But only if you behave in a good way, people will take you in a right way. And then she says, continue to act as a good girl and you will satisfy us. So she says, which means she's saying that you are a good girl and continue to be the same. This is going to make us very happy. This will satisfy us. Shall I, Miss Temple? She questions, shall I? She feels that even if she is behaving good, maybe others won't take it in a right way. You will, she said, putting her arm around me. So she says that definitely if you continue to behave in a good way, definitely the world around you or people around you will definitely think the same about you. Now tell me, who is the lady whom Mr. Brocklehurst called your benefactress? So she's inquiring about Mrs. Reed. What is the meaning of the word benefactress? It's a woman who gives money or other help to a person or an organization. So she was there. She left Jane at the institution. So she must have given something, either money or maybe some other kind of help that she must have offered to Mr. Brocklehurst. Mrs. Reed, my uncle's wife. My uncle is dead and he left me to her care. Did she not then adopt you of her own accord? No, ma'am. She was sorry to have to do it. I have often heard that my uncle got her to promise before he died that she would always keep me. So then she inquires about Mrs. Reed. And then Jane says that Mrs. Reed happens to be her uncle's wife. And her uncle is now dead. And he left Jane to her care. And then Miss Temple, she inquires that, did Mrs. Reed, did she not adopt you of her own accord? Accord is free will. Was she forced? No, ma'am, she was sorry to have do it, which means she's saying that she was not interested in adopting me. She was forced to do that. I have often heard that my uncle got her to promise before he died. So if you remember, the lesson began with Jane's uncle asking Mrs. Reed to take care of Jane till the time she is alive. So that is what even she heard after her uncle passed away. Well, Jane, when a criminal is accused, he is always allowed to speak in his own defense. You have been charged with falsehood. Defend yourself to me as well as you can. Say whatever your memory suggests it is true, but add nothing and exaggerate nothing. So here Miss Temple is giving Jane a chance to speak. What does she say? She says even when the criminal is accused in the court, he or she is given, always given a chance to speak. Okay, the criminal has full right to speak in his or her own defense. And then she says that you have been charged with falsehood. Okay, so now you have to defend yourself as good as you can. And then she says, tell me whatever you want to say, but keep one thing in mind, that you will not add anything. Add anything means you will not speak lies, and you will not exaggerate anything. Okay. I resolved in the depth of my heart that I would be moderate, most correct. Having reflected a few minutes to arrange coherently what I had to say, I told her the story of my sad childhood. Now she decided that, deep in her heart, she decided that she would be moderate. She will not, tell lies. Whatever is the fact, whatever happened with her, she will speak, she's going to speak the same. Then, having reflected a few minutes, what does this mean? She just thought about whatever happened to her in her past. And then she arranged everything clearly. Coherently is clearly. And now she knew what she had to say. And then she began with the sad story of her childhood. Exhausted by emotion, my language was more subdued than it generally was when it developed sad theme. So, her language was more subdued. She was now very, speaking very softly, okay, than it generally was when she developed sad theme. and mindful of Helen's warning against the indulgence of resentment. Helen had warned her, okay, she will not speak anything, she'll not speak anything, she will not show that bitterness. Okay, when you're speaking to Miss Temple or speaking to anyone, okay, you'll never show that bitterness that you have in your heart. She will not, she'll be against the indulgence of resentment. I infused into the narrative far less of gall and wormwood than ordinary. So what happened? She began her story. Okay, she started with a story, and it was nowhere, there was no bitterness and there was no resentment in the way she was speaking. I felt as I went on that Miss Temple fully believed me. Okay, and when she was narrating her story, she felt that Miss Temple was, she had a full faith in Jane, and she was believing to whatever Jane was saying. In the course of the tale, I had mentioned Mr. Lloyd as having come to see me after the fit, for I never forgot the frightful episode of the Red Room when Mrs. Reed had locked me in the dark, unhaunted chamber. So basically nothing about the Red Room is mentioned over here. The Red Room is the same room where Mr. Reed breathed his last. And it seems Mrs. Reed had locked her in that room. And she could also see, Mr. Reed's ghost in that room. Wherein after seeing the ghost, she fainted. So basically that's the reason she says, that she locked her in the dark and haunted chamber. So basically she's speaking here about the Red Room. After I finished, Miss Temple regarded me for a few minutes. Then she said, I know something of Mr. Lloyd. I shall write to him. If his replies agrees with your statement, you shall be publicly cleared from every imputation. To me, Jane, you are clear now. So after listening to her, she waited for some time and then she said, I know something of Mr. Lloyd. And then she said, I will write to him. Definitely she would discuss about Jane. And if his reply agrees, with the statement that Jane had made, she would be publicly cleared. Publicly cleared means how in front of everyone Mr. Brocklehurst, he said that, this girl has a habit of deceiving others. Similarly, in the same way, she would be cleared from the imputation. She would be cleared from the charge, okay, that was put on her. And then she says, right now, as if now, you are clear, and to me you are clear. I completely believe to what you have, in what you have just now, whatever you have spoken, I completely believe. So we will stop here, students, today, and what you will do is you will revise the entire lesson wherever I have taught you till. I hope you have written the hard words along with their meanings. We'll catch up very soon in our next class. You'll take care of yourself. Sai Ram and bye-bye.